Okay, we are starting the monthly meeting of the EDC, September 2nd, calling it to order. The first item on the agenda is additions. Oh, shoot. Sorry. That's the host.
Am I on the way?
No, it's okay. This is complicated. We're still not setting it up right. We'll eventually get to it.
I can't work like this.
Yeah. It's impossible.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none. Citizen comments, as always, we accept citizen comments up front, but typically we allow citizen comments time permitting during the items on the agenda. So if you have something that relates to something on the agenda, which is basically the grant process for 2022, or any of our working groups, events, marketing, housing, downtown rejuvenation, and attracting new businesses, then if you would hold those off for that time, that would be great. Are there any citizen comments on any of the other topics? Or any other topic? Nope, seeing none. We'll move on. Approval of minutes from August 5th, and this month we had a special meeting August 16th. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Could I, before you do that, before you get away from it, I've been wanting to say something. And just kudos to Sally. Her minutes are really thorough. They're really accurate. They're excellent. I just wanted to, I've been wanting to mention that several times because I've certainly been with organizations where the minutes are kind of, not as well done. Anyway, I just wanted to throw out a little kudos.
Larry, thank you. I think it's very well called for. And it reminds me that the only thing that stops Sally's minutes from being perfect is when we don't identify ourselves as to who's saying something. And so, Sally, I'm checking off the list of things that you've told me to do. I think I've gotten all of them.
Well, when Sally has to bleep out my swear words.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you could, I think, Sally, it looks like everybody on the screen is identified by name. And the only people here you can see, you'll be able to tell in the audience are Mary and Bill, and then the 3 EDC members that you can see at the table. So I think we should be okay. But Sally, let me know if we're not. All right, we have a motion of the minutes on August 5th and August 16th. Are there any comments about the minutes? No, okay, then can we take a vote? All those in favor of the minutes, please say
Wait,
aye.
hold on, Don, did somebody second those?
Oh, no, that's right, we have to second it. So would you like to
I'll second them.
Who was that?
Patrick.
Patrick is seconded. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous, so we don't have to take a roll call vote. Okay, financial update. I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see if this is better than last time. Okay, not yet. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not very big. I'll try to make it a little bigger. We're still not quite perfect here. All right, so I'm just going to hide. Here we are. Okay, so if you can see my mouse here, in 2021, we're now, this is our last normal year, 2019, about 300,000. For those of you that are newcomers, this is a healthy growth every year since 2016, when we really, this is sort of a $220,000 year if you annualized it, up to 240, 255, 270, 300. And then of course the pandemic hit. And so here's where we are in our first quarter, which is in February, which is our first quarter. We get the money in February, but it's for October, November, December of last year. What was going on?
Dad's downstairs, he's home, he's watching, she's
Yeah,
on
sorry.
his
Can you mute yourself?
meeting on Zoom.
Can everybody mute themselves?
Apparently they changed back to Zoom.
Sorry, let me just figure out who that is. But anyway, if you could all mute yourselves, that would be great. So in this February revenue for us, which is fourth quarter of last year, we were 45% behind the regular year of 86,000. We improved to 30% behind in our May receipts, which is for January, February, March. We've now just gotten our August receipts, which is for April, May, and June, Q2. And we're at 105% of 2019. So we're basically back on track with 2019. What that means is that we will end this year. We're now forecasting, instead of 300,000 last month, we're now forecasting 325,000. And assuming that we hit 2019 numbers again for the third quarter, July, August, September, which I would guess for sure we will because it's been so busy, then we'll be up to about 350,000. So when we come to our meeting in January, when we start to do go back to our normal process and start to do our 2022 grants, both to the EDC and to the community, we should have about $350,000 in reserve. And I'm guessing we will be forecasting 300,000, give or take, in revenue for 2022, back to 2019 levels. So we'll be basically entering, for those of you that remember, that remember all these numbers from prior years, we'll basically be entering 2022 in about the same position that we entered 2020. The last time we had an annual process. We have about the same amount of money in the bank, a little bit less, and we'll have about the same expected revenue, although that revenue didn't happen because of COVID. So we're kind of returning to normal in terms of our financial model, assuming that the world doesn't fall apart between now and January. So any comments or questions about this? Okay, I bring that up because it's a good intro into our next agenda item, which is the one new business item, which is the grant process for 2022. For those, I just realized that I skipped over the most important personal item, which is, I was about to say, for those of you who have not been part of this process previously, and there's one person who hasn't been part of this process at all, which is Deborah Green, our newest EDC member. Deborah, you just waved again. Wave again, Deborah, so we all see you there. Deborah was appointed by the select board at the last meeting. She has a really interesting background. And Deborah, I don't want you to, remember, we're sitting here with masks and we want to get out of here, but give us the very quick introduction to yourself and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I mean, in brief, I grew up in Boston and on Heartland Hill, and I'm really happy to be back. I have a mixed history that sounded more intriguing than it is, but I have a mixed history working in nonprofits, working in green building, doing large events in arts and in theater, both in New York, Boston, LA, and San Francisco, and also very involved with peace work around the world and diversity governance. So I'm just really excited to see what I can help with and what I can be of service to.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, very exciting. So
Thank you for welcoming me into this. I'm looking forward to it.
And sorry to do it at 6:10 instead of 6:01, but we're now at full strength. Deborah, you've brought us back to 9 members. So thank you for that as well. Okay, so the financial update is a good intro into the grant process for those of you that weren't here in January of 2020. Just to review, we agreed in the second half of 2019. Prior to January of 2020, we had a rolling grant process where every 3 months, perhaps, we would issue grants, or every 4 months, but we also issued grants in between those formal periods, and we were really doing it on a kind of a regular basis. We had a long discussion. We agreed to try out an annual grant process where we would try to get everything together at one time so we could prioritize. That seemed to work, in my opinion, really well. In January of 2020, we received about $550,000 worth of grant requests. We had a 4-hour meeting. I think it was a public meeting. There were probably about 30 people here. We met for half a day. We listed all of the grants. We cut it off at about $380,000 of grant funding, which was more than we were expecting to earn that year, but we dipped into our reserves. But we felt that those grants were deserving of the funds. COVID intervened. And for those of you that remember, 2 months ago, for the grant funding that we had withheld from that round, we then gave it back. So all of that money all of those grants have now been made available once again to the grantees. Not all the money has been dispersed, but they have access to it when they submit their, their invoices to the EDC. So I think over the last couple of months, we've agreed, let's try the annual process again. So I would propose, and what I'd just like to do is get feedback from the EDC, and if there's any feedback from the community as well, that we basically repeat the process. Which would be to ask for grant submissions by the last week in December, to schedule a special EDC, or to reschedule our January meeting from its normal date to sort of January 10th to 15th, somewhere there, to give us about 10 days to review the proposals, to schedule a half-day meeting. We called it our annual meeting, where we go through all the proposals, whether they're from an EDC working group or from a community group, and that we make decisions just as we did 2 years ago. And that if we plan to do that, which sounds like what everyone has been wanting to do over the last couple of months, that we announce that now. We basically, in the next week or two, send out a message to the community saying, as we did 2 years ago, a few months in advance, this is the process. Please, we need your applications here. The application forms are on the website, the criteria are on the website. And the working groups also know, and we'll come to this later, that they are also, our EDC working groups are also working towards a January deadline where they have to come back and say, here are the funds that we would like to see for 2022. So are there any comments about this process? Any suggestions, reactions?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I like it.
Any, you don't,
No,
no comments? All right, any?
I do think that you're being a bit conservative on projected revenues. I think it's gonna really pop, but that's just my opinion.
So by the January meeting, we will have one more receipt. And so if it continues to trend upwards, we'll adjust our forecast, upwards. Any other comments about this?
John, I have a quick question.
Yep.
Are you going to retain the policy of, with I think a 2/3 vote of the board, you could consider other requests at other times during the year?
I don't see any reason to change it unless anyone on the EDC
I don't
thinks.
understand the question. How did it-
If you remember, when we discussed the annual, when we discussed only doing the grants once, we said, well, what if someone in July?
Yeah. There was a little wiggle room in
And
there.
Jeff, that's the wiggle room. Jeff is asking, are we going to retain that wiggle room? Which is, if 6 members of the EDC vote in
I see.
favor, then we would go off, we would make another
But
grant.
didn't we have a dollar limit on that too? I think we
Sally?
did,
Sally,
up to a certain amount.
I think I proposed one because
Yeah.
I didn't like it, but I don't think the rest of you went along with it.
Yeah,
We
I don't
did.
remember. I'd have to look that up. I don't remember if we did. I seem to think we did, Joe. I agree, but
Okay,
I don't
well,
know off the top of my head.
why don't
Well,
I-
John, I just glad that you're going to retain it, no matter what, whether there's a limit or not. I think it's a good idea. So that's
Well,
why
in
I
fact,
asked.
is anyone on the EDC opposed to retaining it?
No. I'm not.
Okay, well then, yes, I think we'll retain it. Sally, maybe you can just let us know for next meeting if there was a limit. And I mean, we have a few months to make these, final decisions, but. Okay, any other comments?
I do think it's a good idea to have a limit. Just, I guess you're seeing this as an opportunity, somebody who didn't know was going to happen to be able to apply before the end of the year. Is that what you're thinking?
No. This is really post-January. So January 10th, we allocate $300,000 to 12 people. And then in June of 2022, someone comes up with a fantastic idea.
Okay.
We have two choices, right? We say, do we say, sorry, you missed the January meeting, it was 6 months ago? Or do we say, this is such a fantastic idea, here's some money? We're saying we would do with a higher threshold, we would do the latter. So, Deborah?
Yeah, I was just wondering if when we announce it, we might want to do some meetings with the working group so that people who are interested in doing a housing proposal or an events proposal or whatever can have an opportunity to get some help with their proposal. That maybe some people, and it'll also give us some insight into what's coming, but also may help different people get it done and get it out there more.
It's
I
a
like
great,
that idea.
yeah, it's a great idea. In 2020, in the October, November, December of 2019, as we led up to our annual meeting, we had several workshops where we offered people help. Those were generic. They weren't tied to the specific topics. It was just come to a meeting if you want help writing a proposal. Not a lot of people came, but it seems to me we ought to offer it, and tying it to the working groups is a much better idea.
I think I like that.
We're nodding. Todd, do you have anything?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, that, they might get together and come up with an even better idea.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
of their
Yeah,
own.
that's what I was thinking as well. Yeah, that you might be able to tie a couple of projects together and get those kind of bigger audacious ideas. Yeah.
Deborah knows what she's doing. This is
Right.
good. Good addition.
Just to preview a request that's gonna come, the implication of this, just so no good deed goes unpunished, is at some point in October and November, I'm gonna ask members of the EDC to please volunteer to do one of these sessions. And it doesn't, not everyone has to volunteer. I think we only need a couple of sessions. And the working groups, of course, can each do this, but 1 or 2 general sessions, so members of the public can come and get some feedback. All right, any other comments about the 2022 grant process, the 2022 annual meeting, basically? Sally?
John, I just, somebody really kind of needs to go back and look at all of our sort of applications and all the information that we have to go to the public, because I have not looked at those obviously since 2019. And at that time, we actually had a grants committee who kind of reviewed all of that stuff. We no longer have a grants committee. So I'm just wondering if somebody or a group of people want to take on sort of the responsibility of making sure that we are ready to go and we have enough information. And, it sometimes falls to me, but I'm not, this is an EDC thing. So it really should be EDC members that are kind of being the, again, it was a group of EDC members that did this the last time.
Sally, it's a really good point. And I actually was thinking that whether it's ad hoc or not, or it's recurring, that setting up a 6th group to do that, so basically a 6th working group who would really only operate for a couple months of the year, November, December, basically, to do what you just said each year, would be a great idea. Is there anyone who is, I think we should set that up. I agree. I agree. Any comments about this and/or any volunteers?
Happy to be part of that.
Todd?
Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
fantastic. Anyone else? And any comments and/or anyone else? I can't imagine anyone. Deborah?
I mean, I want to like jump in softly, but at the same time, I'm not on anything, so I might as well help out where I can.
Okay, fantastic. So one of the 2 of you, and I take it nobody objects to this. I mean, this is an eminently sensible suggestion. Any objections? Okay, so what I'm going to suggest is that the 2 of you, if you'd like, recruit other EDC members or a few other community members. Establish yourself at least for now through January 15th at our annual meeting. Review the materials and so forth, and then recommend to us whether or not you should disband at that point or you should regroup in October of the next year. Decide whether or not it's permanent or not, but at least one time you'll go through the materials.
Yeah, the materials will come from Sally, right?
The materials are all on the website. There's a whole section of the website that
Oh,
says,
right,
here's
with-
what you need to do to apply.
Yeah.
Sally's just suggesting we go on to that and actually
Yeah,
reread
great.
it.
Yeah, yeah, Deborah and I can, we're both the newest people. We'll
Right.
start off and we'll do it all wrong. You'll yell at us and then it'll come back perfect.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, just per our agreement,
Yeah.
I'll yell at Deborah.
That's right. I'm
Yeah.
not, yes, perfect. Thank you, sir.
Okay, but actually from a timing point of view, I think we need to do this in September. I'm just throwing this out because that would mean we could announce things on October 1st and say you can go to the website, look at the material. So maybe if you could come back with your recommendations at our next meeting, that gives you a month to look at it. It's not going to be heavy lifting, I don't think, but it does need a
Look
review.
at Deborah. Look at me. We're ready. We're ready to do it.
Yeah.
If I had a computer, I'd be text messaging like, hey, Deborah, this is super awesome. You seem
Okay.
so smart. I
All
hope
right.
to learn from osmosis by you. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
good.
and I'm wondering, and maybe Sally, we could get together with you as well. Is this do we have an electronic version where they put it, or am I thinking way outside the box?
On the website, we got to go to the website and look.
Okay, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
It's a little more manual than that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other comments about the grant process for 2022 and the annual meeting? Hearing none? Okay. Okay, the working group updates. So we have 5 working group updates. Michael Malik, who is going to talk about events, said he was going to be, oh, Michael is here. So Michael, why don't we start with you on the events working group, which is the newest working group and has not actually as a group met yet, but Michael and Mika have agreed to lead this. And there's one other person who I'm hoping who has indicated interest. So Michael, do you want to just give us a quick update on this?
Hi, Deborah, welcome. This events group is so new, we don't even know who's on it. But we don't even know what we're doing necessarily, but the idea is the EDC has primarily functioned as just pretty much giving money out to grantees, right? And I think at the last meeting or two, we've kind of said, hey, we need to have some sort of committee that's going to function as one that's helping existing events. At the same time, coordinating all the different events that are happening through different different groups in town. So like Pentangle, say the Chamber, maybe Artistry, all having events on the same time, on the same weekend. How do we balance all that? At the same time, what are the events that we need to either focus on to make better and bigger, more successful in town, or are there other events that we need to bring to this area? And I think that's kind of, we just have to meet and figure out who's going to be on this committee and kind of figure out our strategy and where we want to go with this. Recently, I've met with Peter Roosmanier, I believe is his last name, who is the director of Bookstock for the past year or two. And they have been defunct for the past couple of years due to COVID, but they want to grow. And they're looking at ways to grow and perhaps maybe even some EDC grant money. So it was an interesting conversation, and that could be a really iconic event for this town. And that's just one idea. And the other is maybe even building on the existing events that are really already successful in town and making them bigger and better. So we're just recruiting people to be on this. I think that's a big step in kind of figuring out where we want to go and what our strategy is. And so I think John mentioned that, Deborah, you might want to be interested in this and that you've got a lot of great background. That would really help. And we definitely need that. So, I mean, that's kind of the summing it up. I don't want to take up too much time, but anyone have any questions, anything about that?
I mean, I guess since the chamber is the, has the, well, no, not since Artistry, but we have a significant amount of events, and I would hope that you would want to have us on board as part of that committee.
Absolutely.
The Taste of Woodstock, Wassel, which we are in the planning phase of right now, and some others, the Art Festival, which is next week.
Right. So absolutely, Beth, those are the things. I mean, this committee is brand new, brand spanking new. So, but those have been on my mind. I've had conversations with different people and I've got some ideas and I'd love to run them by you. But yeah, Chamber's a huge player in this. So absolutely.
Other comments? The only clarification, Michael, that I'd like to add, and if you disagree with me, if you don't, I think, but I mean, you and I have talked about this, I think, is that we're not looking to get into the events, but there aren't going to be EDC events. Right. I think what we're looking for is to deploy capital strategically in a way that would take events to the next level. That might be a chamber event. I mean, it could be anybody's event. We're not going to be operating things. I think our objective is economic development, which means growth of some sort. And so we're going to be looking for proposals for people who can grow things.
Yeah, exactly. Our job isn't to create these new events, but if someone comes to us and they have this fabulous idea, maybe we want to consider funding it. Or if the chamber's got wassail plans and they want to make it bigger, better, and they need certain things, we can work with them and maybe help facilitate that. That's the idea.
I think Kristen Doyle, were you raising your hand?
Hi. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm relatively new to the area, and I am here at this meeting on behalf of the Two Tired Project. It's a nonprofit that's existed in Woodstock for 2 years, but I have just taken on a position as chair of their inaugural board of directors. And like Deborah, I have a philanthropy and event planning background in Boston and New England. And so I just wanted to put it out there that I will be looking to talk to somebody about the perfect scenario type of cultivation events I can plan in Woodstock in partnership with the Two Tired Project, because we have a phenomenal international board of directors now, and we're bringing a lot of attention to this town, and I've done it all. So maybe I can connect with you, Deborah, or Michael later. Okay. Bye.
Terrific. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Kirsten, sorry.
Kirsten, it's okay.
Kirsten, oh gosh.
It's okay, Joan.
Well, actually, no, I'm going.
Yeah, this is Joan.
Jonah.
Any other comments on events?
No,
Beth?
well, I have a question, John.
Yeah.
It's lovely to meet Kirsten via Zoom, but I'd love to chat with you because I'm not familiar with the Two Tired Project or whatever. So I'd love to have a conversation, coffee, whatever.
Sure. Just a quick thing. Go to the website, the Two Tired Project. It's run by two internationally recognized photographers, but they're very humble. Tara Ray lives in South Woodstock and Kelly Burgess lives in Barnard. They're both new homeowners. And I am now in this role to start to advocate and publicize what they do. So many people
Great.
haven't heard from them.
Perfect. Thank you.
You had a great post this morning too on the listserv. It drove me to the website, so I now understand what you're doing.
Kareem asked, how do we let the world know that the wrong button, sorry. Kareem asked, how do we let the world know that the EDC is looking to fund eligible events? Part of what that working group, Michael and I have talked about, one of the first things that working group will do as it identifies its strategy is to reach out to the community and to, but I think when we make our announcement for immediately after our October meeting, when the grants temporary team comes back and says, okay, we're ready to go, or here's what we're proposing, we'll make sure that that's built into the announcement. Yeah, so I think that's important. Any other comments about events? Okay, next is marketing. Patrick, do you want to?
One question before we move on to marketing.
Yeah.
In terms of the events group, some of the things that happen in the area aren't necessarily specifically in Woodstock. And one example I'll use is the ski race up at Killington. Now, obviously, they don't need our help in sense of promoting that event, but maybe we need to consider events that are just out of our reach to create ways to tie Woodstock into those. So just an idea that would help us, pull some of that traffic our way. And particularly that event in particular, I think would be a great one to think about and start with.
Okay, yeah, and I think I think when Michael says develop a strategy, I think that, those kinds of questions are the kind of questions that group needs to consider. Whether we should do that or not, I see no reason not to. But they'll have to decide what, there's lots of ways, yeah.
Well, we have limited space in Woodstock for some types of events, so, but we can absolutely tie into, like the Balloon Festival as another one.
And Joe has talked about skiing and tying into that as well. So, okay.
John, just to follow up on that though, Patrick, are you saying that we should do something like that, or did we reach out and say to the chamber they should come to us with a proposal that does that?
I'm thinking that somebody who isn't really, it depends on who it is, that we should think about creating a side event in a sense that ties us to the bigger events. Whether we have some kind of special ski thing going on, or we do some kind of special balloon event that is actually in Woodstock that drives traffic to Woodstock, that in a sense, we're leveraging these other events to create you know, a reason to come to Woodstock, you know, and not just to the Balloon Festival and not just to Kempton.
Patrick, you gotta join Michael's group. These are all great
Right.
things, and the point is for them to figure it out. So I think you just volunteer, my friend.
You know, I think
I'm happy to participate in that group. Absolutely.
Yeah, see, Michael, you got it left and right. This is the best.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is exactly what, you know, a working group meeting would be debating and so forth. All of these working groups, just as a reminder, you know, all of the working groups will come back to the full EDC.
Yeah, and riff on it.
For any of their recommendations, and then it'll be the full EDC that gets a chance to define these, you know, to make the final decisions. The working groups don't have any authority to make decisions, but as you'll see with some other ones coming up, well, as you already seen with the marketing group, we made the decision as a full EDC, but they did the groundwork to kind of put the proposal together. You'll see that with the housing group in a moment. So let's move on, just because
I hate wearing a
we're
mask.
sitting here at masks, right?
So the marketing group update. We received the contract from Class 4. It was reviewed. We made some minor changes to it. It has now since been signed and countersigned, so that's all in the works.
Great.
We got their first invoice that will be submitted this week. We are planning a kickoff meeting with Class 4 on the 27th of September. Where one of the things that we're going to do is develop a digital asset list. You know, what events that we want to shoot, what other assets that we want to shoot, and they've already started. They shot video and photography at the Taste of Woodstock, so we already got a good jump on that. And basically, we're going to come out of this meeting on the 27th with a plan of action and a list of the assets that we want to start to build that digital asset library.
Awesome.
Okay, any questions about the marketing working group? No, okay, let's move on to housing. Jill Davies has taken leadership of the housing working group. Thank you, Jill. And Jill, do you want me to share the slide?
Mute, Jill.
Wait, where is Jill?
On
there she
mute.
is, yeah.
There you
I'm
go.
here. Yes, please. Can you share the slide?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm here representing the housing working group. There's 7 of us working on this issue. And I think everybody acknowledges there's a housing shortage in Woodstock and in the surrounding areas. And families and individuals of all income levels and ages are facing difficulties finding a home. And what we're seeing now is the economic effects of that, where our retailers and restaurants are unable to find employees, and we can't go out to eat on certain nights or get lunch on certain days. We're hearing more about different organizations wanting to take on new staff, and they can't bring them in because there's nowhere for them to live. We've seen service workers leaving the areas and taking jobs in other geographic areas where they can find employment and somewhere to live within their means. So all of this now, housing is now an economic development issue, and the group has been looking to see what we can do to increase the number of housing units in Woodstock. So this slide is some of the ideas that we're investigating. Some are further along than others. So the first one we've been looking at, there are 2 with immediate impact, the potential immediate impact. The first one that we're exploring is whether there are short-term rental owners who would convert to long-term rental if there was some kind of incentive. And that idea is just at early stages. We haven't discussed it very much between ourselves, but we will be. So you'll be hearing more about that idea. The next idea is one that the EDC has already been involved with, and this is the home share idea. So the EDC funded a program with the Thompson Center to bring the home share Vermont idea to Woodstock and the surrounding area. So it's designed to provide, oh, you have completely the wrong words there, sorry. But home share is all about somebody being the host and having a home with a spare private bedroom who is wanting somebody to share their home. Sometimes they share for rent only. Sometimes that person shares and takes on some chores like clearing the snow or cooking a meal a week. And this program is working very successfully in Burlington. So the Thompson Center is currently in pilot, working with a couple of different people to get that going. And that could be an easy way to create housing units because they already exist. So you're not stretching our carpenters and electricians anymore. That already exists. So it could happen quite quickly.
Okay, thank you. I'll be there in a minute.
Wait, Seaton, can you mute yourself, or maybe I can do that?
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, then the next two might have a short-term impact. So one of them that we thought we'd explore is some kind of employer home ownership program. So there are many thoughts that employers want to provide housing for employees, and we're looking to see how the EDC could be involved. Could they be involved loaning some money for that down payment that you have to get involved with straight away? That's one idea. So that's something to explore. The fourth idea is something that we've been doing a little bit more work on. We'd like to introduce some sort of accessory dwelling unit program where we provide homeowner assistance to develop an accessory dwelling unit on their property. So now you're talking about taking a little bit longer because you're talking about somebody either building that apartment over their garage or dividing their home into two. So there's probably work involved and a construction crew of some kind. And there are many other towns and cities that have done this to good effect. And we could provide assistance in many ways. We might be able to provide a 0% loan or a low interest loan. Maybe we can provide assistance in assessing and saying, yes, this is the kind of thing you could do here, and it might look like this. We could provide help getting people through the permit process. So think about somebody who lives in town, who's maybe got a large house and needs help getting it converted. They might need cash, they might need help through the process. Think about a second homeowner who might have all the money, but has to manage the project from afar. And if you could help direct that person, that it might be a faster result. And if we were going to get involved in giving incentives, then we would want some sort of promise that the unit was going to be rented to a long-term rental, and perhaps even for a certain level of rent, so that we're not creating $3,000 a month rentals, because that's not who we're trying to help. So we've been doing some investigation, and we will keep working on that one so that by the time we come back to you in January, we'll have some idea of what kind of money we're asking for. And then the last idea is a couple of these are we could be giving loans. So we want to investigate, what does it take to run a revolving fund? So as a government entity, we have this lovely flow of cash coming in from taxes, and that is quite attractive to loan against. So is there a way that we could use an annual payment and get a much bigger pot of money that we can loan out? If we could, then maybe that helps fund the ADU program. Maybe that helps fund the employer home ownership program, because those are where people are wanting to borrow money and pay it back eventually. So it will all work out in a big circular way. So those are some of the ideas we're going to come talk to you about later on in the year as we build more detail around them.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jill. Any comments or questions about this? This is obviously a big, major, we've been talking about housing for a long time. This is a, this is a major initiative and a major issue, a major initiative. It's not going to be all solved in the next 3 or 4 months, but I think we're getting started in a very serious way.
I have
So comments or questions, Todd?
First of all, Jill, this is beautiful, and thank you for this work and heading this up. I just want to go on the record for the umpteenth time, everyone's heard me say it, that I am a firm believer that this must go hand in hand with getting businesses to pay an affordable wage. I want to say it, Sally, you can bleep it out. This is crap. People aren't getting paid enough to work here. Again, a $20 martini getting served by someone making $7 disgusts me. And I think, and I hope that the business group will be created by the restaurant owners and anyone else who wants to do it, so they can tell us what they need. And we can go and form a working group for that and try to combine that with good folks that need homes. Because again, if we're getting a $15 an hour employee and Jill does this great job and gets a $1,500 ADU, that's 60% of their wages, which they gotta pay taxes. They gotta do all these other things. They have to go out and be able to afford to buy a nice ice cream from the new ice cream shop and all these things. So I just want everyone to remember that the work that Jill and her group are doing is so important, but as John said, it's a complicated issue. But I'm going to be saying over and over that we need to make sure that the businesses in town, whatever help we can give them to pay people enough money to be able to afford to live in this great place, in this great state, in this great country, that we keep that in mind.
Or provide
Okay.
housing.
All right, thank you. Well, one way to do it would be, yeah.
Provide housing.
Provide subsidized housing. potentially.
Subsidized housing.
All right, other comments about this, Patrick? And
Jill,
sorry, for those who don't have your camera on, if you turn it on or click your hand, actually, Tom Meyerhoff may be raising his hand. Anyway, just click your hand raising button if you'd like to. Patrick?
Jill, great work on this. Question for you. I know that there are some places like 506 that actually has a house that they promote that people can live there. That would not be possible for like smaller properties like mine or some of the small B&Bs and stuff. Is there been any thought put to doing a sort of a group version of that where it can support multiple businesses as opposed to just it's the 506 house, it's the in-house kind of thing?
It's been talked about. We haven't explored this idea very much at all. But I do want to mention that several of the members of this group are on this call as well. Sally, John, and Devon are all working on this project too.
Because I think that's one that could be a pretty quick hit, I think, if there, is a possibility. Especially for the foreign, I can never remember the right order of letters and numbers, JB2 or whatever they are, for the busy times to be able to have a place for them to stay.
Right. So, there's several other communities that do this already. So we'll do our research and learn from them and then see how to dimensionalize it.
Great. Thanks so much for the work.
Deborah?
Yeah, it's just, Jill, it's fantastic and so impressive to see it presented this way. And it's wonderful to also be pulling from other communities who've already done it. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel and see what's done well. And with that, I'm wondering, is there a committee already a part of this where it's a round table of the people who might be interested in this, or, so that we get some sort of stats of who would be interested in which of the four and what are their barriers of entry to do X, Y, and Z,
So we're starting this week. John has been designing a survey to see who might be interested in accessory dwelling units. So we'll gather that information as we go. I just want to pull out one comment that Kareem has been making, which is, what about those homeowners who are already renting long-term? So providing a long-term rental, and is there some way that we should be assisting them so that they stay renting long-term? So that's another one that we can look at too. Some people are selling their rental units, and that means they might go off the marketplace. So that would be of interest to us.
Yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to get more voices from those people. I'm in a rental and, I've been here a year and it's going to be done at the end of December. And so I actually asked them, what would motivate you to keep it a longer rental, whether it's me or somebody else. And it was really interesting to get their perspective. And so I'm just wondering if there's a way to survey and have it in one place that we can review. And thanks, Jill. It's great.
Okay, any other questions about housing? No, okay, good, great work. Downtown rejuvenation. This is, the person leading this, Stuart Matthews, is kind of in he's distracted with some family issues. And so he's in Washington with his mom. But so there's only one small piece, he'll be okay, but one small piece of this that, Joe, you've been exploring. I don't know, you don't maybe don't need to repeat it, but maybe just want to give a very quick update on that.
Oh, the small piece that I'm focused on is Woodstock has in effect a village designate status with the state. And what that status, the benefits of that status are certain tax benefits for renovations and development of downtown properties. There's also some talk about it might evolve into a grant proposal for doing things like sidewalks and other, I should say, transportation issues. So I spoke with Allison Clarkson last week, and she put me in touch with a gentleman in Montpelier who essentially manages that type of stuff for the state. I haven't had the opportunity to connect with him yet, but my plan is to basically get a tutorial from this gentleman and really learn the specifics of what are the benefits tax-wise and anything else that we can get. So that's where I am with it now.
Joe, you should talk to my wife Angela because she's dealing with Tapsville.
Okay,
Yeah, a lot of information.
okay.
All right, and more to come on downtown rejuvenation, so the last working group is attracting new businesses, and Larry and Stuart are co-leading that. Larry, I have a copy of the bullet points. Would you want me to put them up, or do you just want to talk through them?
Well, yeah, I wasn't actually going to go through them because they're posted on the website, but yeah.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine. Go ahead. Just make whatever comments you'd like.
Oh, well, that basically my comment was that the prior chairman has found himself to be too busy. So Stuart and I have sort of taken over the helm and have come up with a list of action items that are on the website. They're sort of a brief summary of a longer explanation of each one. And I don't know whether it's worthwhile. People can just read them. But we're trying to come up with specific actions to do and to distribute the projects to various members of our group. And I think we have some good ideas going.
Larry, you know what? Just on the off chance that people are not spending their weekends on the EDC website, I'm just going to leave this up for 1 minute.
How could you miss that?
You don't have to present it. Just going to let people read it. And I think it's fair to say, Larry, that like the housing working group, these are ideas that you're exploring, right? Which you'll try to do them, but which ones turn out to be the main ones will be determined as you
Right.
do your work.
And I guess I should add that I sent a much more verbose edition of this that you have very nicely made into the what's before you now.
Any comments or questions about the attracting new businesses working group? This is a kind of a diverse list of, it's like lots of, there's not going to be a silver bullet to getting new businesses to come here. So I think the approach that Stuart and Larry are laying out is sort of, let's try a range of things, going at it from different angles, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Maybe I should add that this is there's two goals. One is retail and one is non-retail. And they will take different efforts, different types of efforts. And Stuart is more in the retail interest. I'm more in the interest of trying to bring businesses like Farmhouse Pottery and Shackleton or Mises or what those types of business to the town, hopefully with well-paying jobs, Todd, and bringing new energetic people to the town, and which is, there are a variety of problems associated with that, of course, such as there's no place for them to go currently. We're working on it.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, Jill, hold on one second. Mary Riley first and then Jill. Just speak up though, Mary.
Is there going to be a cooperative effort between this working group and Class 4? Your marketing.
And whom?
And class 4, the marketing work.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. Right, one of the objectives of absolutely. I don't think I think it's going to be down the road. It may be 3 or 4 months down the road into the project, but absolutely. I think one of the platforms.
Yeah, that's our item. That's our item number 8, which is we're very keenly interested in that. If I understand what Mary was saying.
Yes.
We definitely want to use that platform, and I want to talk to Patrick a little bit more about it. We have talked.
Yeah.
Thank you, Larry.
Gotta go to that website, Mary.
Mary, I thought you spent all your time on the EDC
That's what
website.
I thought you do.
Jill?
I just wanted to mention to Larry that Bristol might be an interesting town to look at. I went there recently and it seems to really have its act together. And had several Main Street cafes and businesses.
What town?
Bristol.
Okay, thank you.
Well, now I know where to go Monday for lunch. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Any other comments on attracting new business? Okay, that's all we have on our agenda. Before I ask for a motion.
John,
Yes, I'm sorry, Patrick.
Kristen had risen her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kirsten.
Oh, hi. Sorry, just a quick thing. My husband works in the digital field, and so do a few of my other friends here in Woodstock, homeowners. And statistically, you know, people my age, 40, and people in this community of digital and tech, they already know that for the next year and a half, they're not going into their Boston offices. So many people are starting to actually move to like New Hampshire or Vermont. And if there is something tangible, like a one-sheeter, you know, presentable outline of what we're seeking for businesses, not retail, I know that the money is there. I could foresee some of these digital agencies, at least 3 or 4 based in Boston and New York, renting a space for the next year or 2 because they always seek a place to convene. And it's becoming increasingly clear that more people are moving up north from the Boston area. So I would love to just see, you know, a more fine-tuned what you're seeking.
Kirsten, how do we get in touch with you?
I will send you my email.
Okay, thank you.
Sally's, for communication, Sally Miller's is the email address for the town of Woodstock because she's the administrator of the EDC, is on the website. And so you could, if you can't find that, you can pass it through her. Okay, any other, sorry, just before we take a motion to adjourn, I just want to highlight the agenda now. I think we've made the transition, which has been over time and interrupted by COVID, to a series of relatively focused, I think, well thought through priorities for the EDC to focus on. Events, marketing, housing, downtown rejuvenation, attracting new business, and then community grants. And that doesn't mean that we can't look at other issues as they come up. It doesn't mean that we won't create new ones and so forth. But I think we've, through various discussions over the last 18 months, we've agreed that these buckets, these working groups are really, each one of them has the potential to be a real lever for economic development over the long term. As you can see, some of the working groups are further along than others, but basically we've organized around these priorities. And I'm hoping that as we move forward, the way that we will begin to operate routinely is that the agenda for the EDC meetings is almost always the same. We basically have the 5 working groups reporting in, maybe not every month, but most months, and then convening off to the side, doing the work that they need to, using these meetings to get input from the community as we've gotten, and ideas and involvement from the community as we've done today, and to kind of have a fair bit of work done by each, by working groups in between the meetings. And I think that can really, again, we've all been part of this transformation. We've sort of discussed it. It's not set in stone, but it's nice to recognize that it's sort of happening now. And I hope we can kind of stay on this course, at least for the next year or so, and see how this approach works. So I just want to say, I see Kareem has raising his hand. So Kareem, you get the last comment and then we'll adjourn.
Yeah, thanks, John. Hi, everyone. So just a thought here. And, I understand everybody's a volunteer. I myself volunteer in a number of groups. I was wondering if it might be helpful to maybe put some even loose sort of milestones or target dates around major deliverables. For example, one deliverable could be what Larry had just presented, which is a list of ideas that his group is going to be looking at. So maybe not to solve today, but perhaps every committee should have some target or aspirational target dates out there to deliver on 2 or 3 milestones that might be standard across the committees. That way, at least, there is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, if you know what I'm saying. And again, I have to reiterate, I understand this is all volunteering, but it might help ground some of the initiatives in as much as we would be shooting for a variety of dates.
I think, by the way, 3 of the 5 working groups have at least what I call work plans, right? Housing, marketing, and attracting new business. And that doesn't have dates. Well, I mean, the marketing thing has dates on it. Housing is shooting for a January proposal. Events is just getting started, and downtown rejuvenation is sort of in flux. So yes, I think what you're describing, if we are going to achieve things, the working groups have to plan and follow a work plan and therefore achieve things over time in a fairly predictable way. So I think we will evolve to that sooner rather than later. And I'm not suggesting, over the next few months, as we kind of as this becomes our standard approach, I think we'll see that from all the working groups. I hope we do.
And just to put a pin in that is, I think, Kareem, if you just think about like the progression of the meetings I've been in and stuff come on board, what I see you doing, John, is becoming more and more bossy in your nice way, because we have to be done for the next meeting, Deborah. So Kareem, I think John's like, because he's so nice, he's starting to shove that in there. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, I think, John,
I appreciate deadlines from you. Thank you.
John, you can be more bossy. You can increase your bossiness by about 50% and you'll still be nice. So I would go ahead and do it.
50%.
You haven't seen the other side of him. I have.
50%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I have absolutely no comment.
Yeah.
Can I have, that's the end of
That
our.
was a compliment, by the way, okay? So.
Can I have a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Any
you,
opposed?
Woodstock.
Thanks, everybody.
Ciao. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
I need 2 minutes.
Okay. Hold on.
So, how the answer would do.
She's doing